Good day, everybody. How we doing? It's Magdalene Adenike, and it's day 5. Day 5. Woohoo! We made it through. How's your week been? How have things been going for you? Started on Monday. I was looking at it like, oh, it's gonna be one of those things, but it's been 5 days, but it's been an intense 5 days. It's been a very intense 5 days, but all for good, all for good. And we started this campaign on Monday, understanding your why and going for it. So we started on Monday, and on Monday I talked about what's about your accent. On Tuesday, I talked about close the door to doubt. On Wednesday, I talked about who stole your identity. And today, it's about reflection, reflecting back on the last 4 days. What have we learned? What are we able to take away from what I've been speaking about? And how are we going to be able to run with it? Because there's one thing learning something, but there's another thing imbibing that thing so that it becomes part and parcel of us, and then we're able to run with what we've learned. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm briefly touching each topic again. What about your accent? I talked to us on Monday about a lady who came from, I can't remember which part. She came from Eastern European because of the war. Unfortunately, lost her husband, who was a journalist in her country. She came to this country with her 2 small boys, and she couldn't speak a word of English. But after going through the years, going through studies and education, she's learning to speak English. She's not perfect yet, but she's speaking English. Not only that, she's written a book. So where I met her was at an event coinciding with International Women's Day back in March. And she read from her book. She was apologetic at the beginning, saying, no, please, I can't speak good English. But she read from her book, and everybody was in total silence because we understood each word she said, every single thing. We felt her pain through the words of her book. So I said that to be able to encourage the listener out there who are trying to use the accent as an excuse. From my own personal self as well, because every topic I've spoken about is something that is reflective of my own personal life. Mine was the accent when I first came to this country back in '92. Finishing off primary school before I started secondary school. I was laughed at because my accent was different from the rest of the kids in the school. I was the one that stood out because I didn't speak the way they spoke, and so they laughed at me, and they turned me to a thing of mockery. So I would be told to keep talking in order for them to keep laughing. That was what I talked about. So it was a personal thing for me. So I'm saying to everybody out there, what about your accent? That should not stop you. If you have a message to convey, your accent should not stop you from conveying that message. You should still convey that message nonetheless. That should not stop you. Think back to the lady I talked about. She wrote a book. She told us about her story, and she came and stood in front of, I think it was about 80 to 100 women that night, and she read her book, and every single person was in absolute silence of how this lady can go through all of this and still be standing here. So that should not be an excuse. Tuesday, I talked about closing the door to doubt. Doubt, when it's fully fed, it grows to fear. I remember what I said about fear. False expectation appearing real. Do not allow doubt to be a deterrent to your blessing. Do not allow doubt to hinder you, to cripple you. Do not allow doubt to take over and become full-blown and become fear, and then you become paralyzed and you don't pursue after that dream, and then unfortunately, when the day comes that you're no longer in this earth with us, you go to the great fall. I told us, do not go to the great fall. Achieve what it is you're meant to achieve on this earth. How do you know what you're meant to achieve on this earth? There is a niggling thing within you that will just not let you go. When you see someone else doing something that you truly admire, seeing someone else doing something that you really, really want to do, and you just can't shift it, you just can't push it away, but the only thing that's stopping is like, okay, how do I go about doing this? You learn. Close the door to doubt. Do not let doubt hinder you from achieving what you need to achieve. That's day 2. Day 3, I talked about who stole your identity, and I gave reference to thieves out there would steal a person's personal identity for forgery purposes in order for them to go and still buy items on credit cards and pile up the bills for that innocent victim. That's what people do. We understand that. But what I'm talking about identity is the fact who stopped you from doing what you need to do. Who did you give the power to your life? Who did you give the key to your life that is hindering you from achieving what you need to achieve? The power is in your hand. Remember, I keep saying it and I'll keep saying it until it is, yes, it's a broken record, but it makes sense. Rome was not built in a day. You need to be able to push ahead in order for you to achieve what it is you need to achieve. You have to keep forging ahead because Rome was not built in a day. That is the number one thing that we must remember. Rome was not built in a day. So who stole your identity? Who did you give the keys to your life to? It's time to regain that power back in order for you to achieve and strive to pursue after your dreams. For your dreams' sake, you cannot and you cannot go through this world without achieving your dreams. Your children are looking, people around you are looking. There's somebody that is crying out for your help. And if you're sitting down on your hands and saying, oh, nothing is working well for me, you are depriving yourself, you're depriving your family, and depriving that person or those people out there that need to hear from you. There are things I can relate with other people. I can go and speak to them and they can definitely relate with me and I can relate with them. And there are things that I can't relate with them. I can talk to them in a generalistic manner, but I can't relate to them on a personal manner if I personally haven't gone through it. So there are several things that people go through in life. I'm not going to name any, but there are several things. So there's things that I've gone through that I can speak and someone will relate with me. And the things that you, the listener, has gone through and you can speak and somebody will relate with you. So don't feel that because, oh, everyone is talking now, then that's it. No. You are unique in your own way. I did make reference to this during the course of the week. Everything I've done has been filmed. They are all on social media and they've also been on YouTube as well, YouTube videos. So do check them out, Magdalene Adenike. You can listen to them again, take notes. Don't just listen to it once. The thing is, you never get the message once. You have to keep listening to it and take notes in order for it to sink in order for you to be able to run with it. Yesterday, I talked about being persistent. I gave us a definition, and I gave us different quotes about persistency. You have to persevere. You have to push. For the sake of your dream, you have to push. You can't just leave things as it is. You just have to continue to push because of the fact that you must be hungry. If you are not hungry, then you give up at the first hurdle. Until you are hungry enough, you keep pushing, you keep pushing, you keep pushing until you achieve what it is you need to achieve. Whatever your dreams and aspirations are, you have to keep pushing because it's so vital. It is so important. I don't know how to emphasize how important this is for you to keep pushing and persevering until you get that breakthrough that you require. You can't sit down and say, oh, everybody look at me, that's it, the world is over. I made reference to the woman that goes to the hospital multiple times to give birth. Is it the fact that she forgets the pain after the first child? No, she remembers the pain, but because of the love that she has for the child, because of the love she has for the partner, she keeps going back and keeps going back, even though she knows that at that point in time there is an immense pain that she's going to go through. She knows that she has to push through in order for the baby to come out. So I'm telling you now, you need to push through in order for you to achieve your dream. Don't give up halfway because you feel that, oh, the road is too difficult. Like the words of the song say, there are many rivers to cross. There are many rivers to cross. Until you push and push and push, you can't come to the other side. But then don't envy someone else who has reached the other side. Do you know how many hurdles that person had to cross? Do you know how many times that person had to start all over again in order for them to get to where they are now? I talked about also walking a day in that other person's shoe, that person that you are envying and thinking, oh, is it only about them? If you were to take a day, I said, what, just an hour in that person's shoe, would you be able to cope? So before you start to talk about somebody else, you better check yourself. That's what I said to you. I said, when you're pointing one finger to somebody, 4 are pointing back to you. You need to check yourself. What do you need to do? What do you need to say? How do you need to go about it? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? Understand your why. I gave us a definition of why. I said that whatever it is that you would have gone through, and you've come out on your other side, that is your why. You have to understand what your why is. Every one of us, like I said, we have a story. Every single person has their own individual story. Every single person on this earth has their own individual story. What is your story? You may say, oh, but I don't have a story. I didn't fall pregnant at my teen age. I never got married and divorced. I wasn't abused. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. Yeah, but sit down and think. I'm not telling you to make up stories. How was your childhood? How did you grow up? Was everything fantastic? Okay, what about the people around you? How did they feel? You have to be able to sit down. This what I'm saying to you is an inward reflection, not an outward reflection. You have to go back deep down inside to understand what has gone on, because each and every one of us are made up in a peculiar manner, and everything, different factors around us affect us as we grow up in order to begin to shape us and mold us to the way we react to circumstances around us now as an adult. So go back to the onset of your life, go back to the beginning and begin to work back. For those who say, oh, I never went through, you don't have to go for a traumatic time in order for you to say you have a why. You do not have to. That's what I'm doing. I need to emphasize here. You do not have to have gone through a traumatic time in order for you to say, oh, this is a time I need to make changes for myself. But you are more than qualified, you are more than capable to know yourself better than somebody else. When I say you are more than qualified, you don't need the qualification, you don't need all the degrees in order for you to know who you are. You can take yourself and go and say, you got to meet this person who has all the degrees from A to Z, because they have all these different degrees and qualifications at the end of their name. That doesn't mean that this person will ever know you. You will know you more than anybody else. So you need to sit down, keep close down all the various communication moods that you have, all the communication devices that you have, and sit down and talk to yourself, because we are too busy, and I'll say it again, we are too busy on our social media, on the phone, talking, on television, on the computer, on this, on that. Shut everything down and sit down and talk to yourself. You need to know yourself. You need to realize what it is. Are you on the right track? Did you make any goals for yourself in January? Have you gone back to those goals? Are you on track? Understand your why and go for it. Understand your why and go for it. It is so important for you to do so. It is so important for you to do so. If you don't do so, you live a very frustrated life. All of this I'm saying is about reflection. We are reflecting back, not just only in the last 4 days, but I want us to reflect back in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years, in the last 20 years, however long you've been in existence upon this earth. Reflect back. This is the time. That's the assignment I'm giving to you. Reflect back on your life. How are things? Are you on track? What's going on? How are things happening? What's going on in your life? Why are things happening to you in this manner? What pattern have you realized in your life? What pattern that you see keep reoccurring and reoccurring every year or every other year, or recurring in your family line? What pattern? Are they good patterns? Are they negative patterns? How can you break that chain of negative patterns? Or what do you need to do to reinforce that good pattern in order for the next generation of your family will continue to imbibe that pattern? Those are things that will help you. You can never get those things if you don't sit down to reflect. You need to reflect. It's so vital. It's so important to reflect. But sometimes some people are scared to look back into their life. Not scared as in they're frightened, but because they don't want to open up some old wounds. But sometimes we need to be able to go backwards in order for you to go forwards. I'll say it again, you need to go backwards in order for you to go forwards. Because if you're not stepping backwards, how are you trying to go forward? If you're not stepping backwards to see where things have gone wrong, how do you intend on achieving greatness in the future? If not for yourself, for your children, for the next generation, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, for the next generations to come, you need to. It is so vital for you to do so. A rich person today who was filthy rich and has all the money, has everything, he or she dies today. The children are assured they don't have to work, that there's money, so long that rich person is a wise person as well invested. That person's child knows they don't have to worry for money. But then it's now down to that person's child to be able to be wise and use that money in a very productive manner, because if he or she does not use that money in a productive manner, that person will grow up and have children, and their children will lose out because that second generation has squandered the whole money. So if you're not sitting down to reflect, to be able to take time to put things together, what you are doing, in a sense, you're building upon water. Your foundation is very shaky. Because you will still get to a point again that you'll find yourself like, oh God, what do I do? Nothing seems to work, because you haven't taken time to build your foundation. People, when they're building houses, you don't start building house from the roof. You have to start from the foundation, because if you're building from the roof, what are you standing the roof on? You can't just build on thin air. You have to start on the foundation. And if that foundation is not solid, if there is a slight earthquake, the foundation is gone. The whole building, no matter how beautiful it is, it's gone. So the foundation is so important. The foundation of anything is so important. The foundation of a relationship is so important. The foundation of your family life is so important. The foundation of your business life the foundation of life in general is so important. If you started something on a shaky foundation, it's not too late. You can always go back. If it's not just you, if it doesn't just involve you, if it doesn't just involve you, it involves other people as well, and they are willing to go back, you need to take time out to go back. When I mean go back, I'm not telling you to travel to wherever. It's to take time out of all the business that is happening around you. Shut everything down. Sit down and begin to think. Okay, what happened? What happened? Was I around at this time? Who did this? Who did that? How can we now, moving forward, how can we begin to rectify the wrongs that happened in the past? Those questions, when we begin to ask ourselves those questions, that tells us we are moving in the right direction. We begin to understand our why. We begin to understand why things are happening, what have happened, and then how can we work with those things in order for us to move forward, in order for us to push forward to a greater and better future. In the next few days, we're going to be going into the 6 months, which is June. Next week, Wednesday, we're going to be in June, God willing. That will be the halfway point of this year, 2016. What have you achieved so far? In January, we all come up with a New Year's resolution. Oh, those who smoke, I will stop smoking. Those who drink, I'll stop drinking or cut down in drinking. Those who want to lose weight, I'm going to be in the gym. I'm going to be sleeping in the gym morning, noon, and night. So many different resolutions. January hasn't even ended. Some people have just, that whole resolution is out the window already. But it's not about putting down resolutions. It's about actions. What actions? You don't need 1 million things. Even if it's just 2 things you put down and you're able to actually achieve those 2 things, even bigger and deeper and greater than you can ever imagine, then you know you're on the right path. Then you give yourself another 2. You give yourself another 2. Then if you want to push it to 3 or 4 or 10 or 20, whatever. But the thing is, it's your path. You're not in a race. You are not in a race with anybody. That's one thing you must realize. You are not in a race with anybody. So stop comparing yourself to somebody else. You are unique in your own manner. You are unique in your own manner. So do not compare yourself to somebody else. Realize that. The only way you can realize that is when you sit down with yourself and begin to ask yourself some really hard-hitting questions. It's vital, it's important for you, for your generation, for future generations, that you take time out of all the busyness and realize who you are, where you're going, what you need to do in order for you to achieve greatness that is awaiting you wherever your end goal is. Do not go to the grave full. Go to the grave empty. Like the late, great Miles Monroe said, do not go to the grave full, go to the grave empty. Go to the grave empty, knowing fully well that yes, you've achieved all you need to achieve. You are satisfied within yourself that you've done what you need to do. Just like I give an example, you go through the day and something pops into your head and say, oh, remember to do this, or remember to call that person, or send a text, or, or put the bin away, or I don't know, just little things just pops into your head. And you put in your head how you do it, but then something else takes your attention and then you forget it. Then you remember much later, or you don't even remember that same day, you remember the next day. You're like, oh wow, I was supposed to do this and supposed to do that. There was a reason why that thing popped into your head at that particular time. Especially when you need to make a phone call or send a text to somebody. There is a reason, and then you don't do it because you were busy with something else. One thing I've come to realize is that once the thing comes into my head that way, I better act on it immediately. This 5-day campaign came to me. I was telling you guys at the beginning, I said it's either Sunday or Monday, but now I've realized, actually remember, it was a Monday morning in the shower. It just popped into my head on Monday morning. As I stepped out the shower, I said, you know what, I'm going to run. I didn't even take 2 minutes. I began to do what I needed to do. I was like, okay. And the good thing about it, I had things prepared from before. That's why you must always be prepared. Opportunity comes at any time. You have to be prepared. If you're not prepared, you miss out. I had certain things written out already. But I looked at them. I said, okay, not everything I'm going to put in this 5-day campaign. So I had to begin to do some research from some of the topics I've talked about were not things that I'd already written out before. But then as soon as I got that inspiration on Monday morning, I said, I'm not going to waste any time. What I was having a dilemma was watch time. I had to be consistent with my time. I can't say, oh, join me tonight at 2 o'clock, or join me tonight at 7 o'clock, or join me to Mondays 2, Tuesday 7, Wednesdays 4. No, I had to stick to a time. And I had to ensure that I made sure the time I was going to be giving out was a time that I was available and I could do what I needed to do without any form of distraction. Hence the reason I chose 9:30, because I know at least by that time, whatever I'm doing, I need to be coming back, to finishing wherever I am and just start racing. If it's something that was going to exceed 9:30, then I don't need to be there. Well, not this week anyways. And I give God thanks that I've been able to stick to that 9:30. These things may seem irrelevant, but they are not irrelevant because they are part and parcel of the planning process. They are part and parcel of the bigger picture of whatever it is you're trying to achieve. You have to think bigger than yourself. Your dream must be bigger than you. Your dream must be scarier than you. Your dream must not scarier than you, sorry. Your dream must scare you. If it does not scare you, you are not even started yet. You are a non-starter. But for you to be able to get to that point that your dream is bigger than you have to take time out of all the busyness and put things together. There's so many things I was supposed to do this week, but something happened that forced me. It forced me to have to cancel everything. At first I was like, oh, why? But now I know why. I know why it came about. So I just like, you know what? Let me just embrace it and do what I need to and give this campaign my 100%. Because I would have been giving out haphazard messages, but I needed to give this 100% because I always say it wherever I go to sing, to speak, to talk, whatever it is I'm called upon to do. I always say it. I say before I step out, I say, God, if it's just one person I need to speak to, let that one person connect, and that's how it's always been. You can't please everybody, no matter how much you try. You can never please everybody. But you can please one person. So I've been saying it from Monday to today, Friday. The Periscope I've been giving out since Monday. It's not for everybody. People always want to criticize. What is she saying? What is she wearing? At the beginning, Monday and Tuesday, I had some silly people making some very silly comments. Those ones I don't bother with. Because you can tell from the comments that they're making, these are immature children. They may be adults, but I class them as children because a child acts in a childish manner. An adult you would expect to act in a mature manner. So you want reflecting back, not just in the last 4 days, reflect back in your life. Reflect back in your life and understand where you've been, understand where you are, and understand where you're going. Understand your why and go for it. No matter how bitter the past may be, no matter how traumatic the past may be, no matter how horrible the past may be, you need to be able to go back in order for you to move forward. You have to step backwards in order for you to move forward. Because remember the foundation. You're building a foundation, and if that foundation is not solid, no matter how far you run, you will definitely come crumbling down. That's the truth. Take time out from all the busyness. You won't die if you're not on social media. You won't die if you're not on social media. Take time out from all the busyness. There is greatness inside of you. There is greatness inside of you. I'm coming to the end of today's Periscope. But I just want to say thank you for those who have been listening. Thank you for those who have been listening live. And for those, obviously, who have been listening through the recorded once it's been posted out on the social media. God bless you. Run with whatever it is that you've been deposited to run with. Run with it. Run with it. Do not hesitate. Do not hesitate. Your why is crying out for you to run with it. Your why is crying out for you to run with it. Until next time, this is Magdalene Adenike saying ciao.